I think that should be the new theme song for the International Association of Firefighters. You know, based on their most recent position paper saying, you know what, paramedics, they don't need, there's no reason for them to have an associate's degree. I'm going to have to disagree. By the way, this is Paramedic Judd, and it has been a long time since I've made a video for you. I apologize. If you don't know, I took a job as an EMS program director last May. Basically, the program as it was had to be rewritten. It was the class was halfway through. The previous director took her laptop computer and all the files, so I had to kind of recreate everything. Then I had to write this year's curriculum because I didn't have a curriculum from the first cohort that went through. Then I had to rewrite the curriculum a third time because we were condensing the format from a 2-year program to a 1-year program. And then I had to rewrite it yet again because I decided that I wanted to change textbooks. So, extraordinarily busy, great opportunity for me. It's been a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it's taken away from some of the things that I enjoy doing, like YouTube videos. Obviously, I'm at home right now, got my luxurious curtains in the background. They actually do a pretty good job keeping the light out. Got my cool "So Others May Live" dealie in the back, along with my father-in-law's flag. He was a Navy veteran, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, there's been a lot going on, and since I'm an educator, I actually get a Christmas break, which is kind of weird because I'm used to working on Christmas. But I wanted to take this opportunity to do this video because I've seen a lot of banter back and forth in terms of the paramedic education requirements that would require a 2-year degree to sit for the National Registry exam. So before I get to my position on there, I'd like to point out to you that the position paper in support of the 2-year requirement to test for the National Registry was written by the National Association of EMS Educators, the National EMS Management Association, and the International Association of Flight and Critical Care Paramedics. Those are the folks who wrote the position paper in favor of a degree. I got to look at my cell phone here because I can't remember exactly who opposes educational requirements. I know it's the International Association of Firefighters. It is the International Association of Fire Chiefs, the National Volunteer Fire Council, and the National Fire Protection Association. Ooh. A whole bunch of firemen say we don't need college degrees, so we must not need any college degrees. Hashtag, am I right? Wrong. Totally wrong. First and foremost, I want you to pay attention to all of the people who are opposing this. They're firemen. In EMS, we are, as I like to describe us, the healthcare wing of public safety. We don't fight fires. Actually, I put out a kitchen fire one time before the fire department could show up. Boy, they were pissed. Never put out a fire before the firemen get there and pull hose and run around and whatever. Anyway, I support an Associate of Science degree prior to testing for the National Registry. Let me explain why. First, I've been involved in EMS since 2007. For those of you who don't have your degrees yet, that's 12 years. I actually graduated with I got my EMT certificate in 2008, and I got my paramedic certificate in 2009. It's 2019. 19 minus 9, 10 years. It's math. Learn it in college when you get your degree. That I've been involved in this. Interestingly, I actually got my 2-year degree a decade ago when I got my paramedic certificate. I had taken enough prerequisites by the time I entered into the paramedic program that when I graduated, I actually came out with an associate's degree, which was pretty cool. I've since gone on and earned my bachelor's degree in organizational leadership, and I'm just a couple classes shy of my MBA in healthcare administration. So, do I support education? Yes, I support it very strongly. Let's take a quick overview of EMS and a quick overview of the educational requirements that are being proposed. Number one, do you need literature to be a good paramedic? Well, you're probably not going to be quoting anything from Hemingway or Angelo or the Tennessee Williams or Eugene O'Neill plays that maybe you have read are probably not going to be entirely applicable when you're running a CHF patient. Is Oedipus from your humanities courses applicable to a GSW? No, probably not. So do you need every single component of your 2-year degree on every single EMS call? Not necessarily, but, and this is a big but, when it comes to education, education doesn't teach you how to be a paramedic. That is what the paramedic portion of your education is for. That's going to teach you the patient care. That's going to teach you the pathology. That's going to teach you the treatments, the algorithms, everything that you need to know. Here's what the education teaches you. First and foremost, as a paramedic, you're going to write a lot of reports. And if any of y'all have ever QA'd some of our reports, they are awful. They're just terrible. A comma in a sentence could be the difference between a conviction and an innocence verdict in a murder trial, based on how you write your narrative. Many of our narratives are going to be called into court. If you haven't had to testify yet, you will. If you haven't been deposed yet, you will be. It happens. And how well you write determines on how those trials go. The other thing is if you're not good at writing, you may find yourself in severe trouble with your medical director. You may find yourself in severe trouble with the physicians at the hospital. You may find yourself in trouble with the operations department because you lack the knowledge to write a report in a coherent format that can be understood simply by reading it. Now, they may be able to pull you in and have you explain it, and you may do a fantastic job explaining, but remember, what we teach in education is that if you do it, you document it, and if it's not documented, you didn't do it. Okay? So writing a good report is important. Your associate's degree is going to require you to have at least your first college level English class. Oftentimes that class can even be earned in high school. Okay. Second, your humanities classes, your Greek mythology, your Oedipus, your Homer, those types of things. Do those apply specifically to EMS? I'm going to argue that they do. Your humanities classes do teach you a little bit about thought processes, and they teach you to think outside of the box. Part of EMS is being able to look at a problem and coming up with a creative solution to it. We have been called the MacGyvers of the medical profession. We do have to be creative. Oftentimes we're doing a very difficult job with very limited information based on data provided from those of questionable knowledge. So we have to be able to think outside of the box to come up with the best treatment plan based on the algorithms and the protocols that we've been provided by our medical director. As you probably have noticed, most of our patients haven't read our textbooks or our protocols. And when we try to fit our patients inside this box of protocol or inside this box of our paramedic text, it doesn't work. And the education that you get through these humanities classes can help you to think in a more creative style or to think outside of the box, and it will become important when you're on one of these critical calls. Math. We do drug calculations. Anyone who knows how to administer dopamine, you have to take a 400 milligram vial, put it in a 250 ml solution to create a 1600 milligram per milliliter concentration so that you can administer dopamine at 2 milligrams per kilogram per minute, max of 20, through a 60 drip set during transport. You've got to be able to understand how to administer 1, 2, 3, or 4 milligrams of lidocaine per minute. You've got to understand how to administer your nitroglycerin drips. All of these things are math. And if you take some college level math classes and you can learn how to process this information in your head, you're not going to need to pull out your cell phone calculator because you'll know the formulas and you'll be able to work through them. And this is coming from somebody who stinks at math, like awful. But I can do drug calculations at 3 o'clock in the morning with one eye closed because I've got the mathematical foundation and the protocols memorized well enough to perform those calculations accurately. And in my entire career, I have never misdosed a patient, ever. And yes, I know that for a fact. Because I always verify what I administer, I verify how I administer it, and then I look at the solution in the bottle when I waste whatever I have to waste or when I get rid of whatever I have to get rid of. The math helps. You've got your science, very simple. Anatomy and physiology should be your science if you're going into emergency medical services. Okay, so real quick, we've covered anatomy and physiology, English, humanities, and let's see, anatomy, and we've covered science, math, English, and humanities, okay? That's 12 credit hours right there. Generally, to get your Associate of Science or Associate of Applied Science, you're only going to need 18 to 22, 24 credit hours. So you're already halfway there. Pick an elective that you like. Then, take something else that's going to help you. Take a biology, take a chemistry class. For the class that enjoys you, take something easy, man. Take, music appreciation, film appreciation. Take a physical education class. Take a baseball class, a coaching class. Something that interests you, that's going to help you, that's going to teach you in some way, shape, or form. This is not difficult. And one of the arguments is, well, it's so expensive. Dude, I teach at a community college. It's $100 a credit hour. It's like $300 for a class. You can come up with $300 to take one class a semester until you get your 2-year degree. It's not that difficult. If you can afford the 40 hours to get the 42 credit hours to get your paramedic certificate, you can afford the additional 18 to get your associate's degree. It's not complicated. Now, when I look at this position paper from a bunch of fire organizations, these aren't even EMS, these are fire organizations saying, no, you don't need your education. No, that's cool. No, hey. Can you imagine if your parents were like, listen, Charlie, now that you've got your certificate from kindergarten, we're going to need you to go outside and start cutting the grass. You're not going to go to school next year because we've got work to do. Okay. That's basically what the fire departments are telling you. They don't care if you have your education. What they want is a paramedic on their truck so that they can maintain this ALS status. That's it. They could care less if you pursue any higher education. But when you read the Commission of Accreditation for EMS Professionals, description of the EMS profession, the paramedic certificate ensures that you have the minimum level of competency to perform as an entry-level paramedic. Minimum competency, entry level, and the fire departments are cool with that. Now, they tried to mitigate some of the damage based on their position statement. Oh, well, we don't mind if, you go on and pursue higher education, like on your own, If it's too expensive to pursue a 2-year degree in the first place, it's going to be too expensive to pursue it in the second place. But it's really not. 18 credit hours can be accomplished with less than $2,000. I'm not saying $2,000 isn't a lot of money. It is. Believe me, I could use it. But this is an initial investment on an entire career. And you should make that investment in yourself. Had I not gotten my 2-year degree, I would not have been able to get my 4-year degree. Had I not gotten my 4-year degree, I wouldn't have been able to get the job that I have now. And if I didn't have the job that I have now, I probably wouldn't be pursuing my master's degree. All of this builds upon itself, and it is imperative that you start pursuing your education now. When I came to this college that I'm working at, I started working on a plan to develop an Associate of Science degree 6 months before this position paper ever came out, because I saw the value in the education that I earned when I went through school. I find it interesting that everybody's saying that you don't need an education on these EMS forums and EMS boards, because Lord knows we like to cannibalize ourselves. I find it fascinating that all the people who are saying, well, you don't need no education, are either A, not educated, or B, fire. But to be effective in your job as a paramedic, you need to go on and pursue higher education. Excuse me. The fire departments just want people on their trucks. All they want is to maintain that ALS status. They're not concerned about you, but try getting a fire chief job without your fire certs. In fact, try and get a battalion chief or a fire chief job without a college education. It's not going to happen. They like it for them. They like education for the fire personnel. They will pay for them to go through school, and we're going to teach you how to pump this apparatus. And they'll pay for that. They'll pay for you to learn how to pump a truck, but they're not willing to help pay for you to improve yourself so that you can perform your job as a paramedic more effectively. Look, the main reason that the fire departments want the ALS service in the first place, or the main reason that ALS services have been taken over by the fire department, is purely money. The EMS agency that I used to work for was absorbed by the fire department because they said it would be more efficient to have firefighters on the ambulances. Well, guess what? When you're running a medical call, you're not fighting fire, and when you're fighting fire, you're not running a medical call. You can't do both at the same time, and they are not one and the same. And as soon as they brought the EMS department into the fire department to offset the cost, you know what they did? They raised their fire service fees. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. It's a money game. It's a shell game. EMS largely is unprofitable because of EMTAL regulations requiring that we transport people with or without regard to pay. But the fire services can absorb EMS, collect the EMS fees, and raise fire fees at the same time to offset the cost. It's a shell game. And when 90% of all fire calls are EMS related, it's justification to keep that fire department employed. If you go to any fire station, I guarantee you, any paid fire department, I guarantee you that they run more fire calls, or excuse me, more EMS calls than fire calls. They run probably 90% EMS and 10% fire, but I will guarantee you that there are more fire apparatus at that station than there are ambulances. Because they don't care. If they cared, there would be more ambulances than fire apparatus. If they cared, they would allow people to get hired on as EMTs and paramedics without their fire certification. If they cared, they would be supporting your education. But they don't. So don't let people who are uneducated, and don't let people who don't care stand in your way of improving yourself and improving patient care. Because that's the ultimate goal of this profession, is to care for those in their time of need. You guys have a great day. This has been a long video. I think this is my longest video yet. Anyway, kind of fired up. Love you guys. Take care.